Alright, so good night everyone. Good night XIT. Good night to all who are joining this live. What I'm going to do tonight is basically look at the June 2024 paper 1. So we're going to go through the questions and solutions to that paper. So persons who did the exam this year can see how they perform. Yeah? So let's get into it. So first question, we have negative 3 in bracket all squared plus negative 2 in bracket all squared. What is that equal to? So we have negative 3 in bracket all squared plus negative 2 in bracket all squared. So this is negative 3 by negative 3 plus negative 2 by negative 2. We know negative 3 by negative 3 is positive 9 plus negative 2 by negative 2 is positive 4. And we know 9 plus 4 will give us 13, whose answer is D. Let's look at question 2. What is the value of the digit 6 in the number 48.621? So the value of this digit 6 here, this will be we have 14.621. This here is tenths, hundredths, thousands. So this represents tenths. So this will be 6 all over 10, whose answer is B. Question 2. Let's look at question 3. What number when added to 1 1/3 gives 2? So what number when added to 1 1/3 gives 2? So we have this number, what it x, added to 1 1/3 and this gives 2. For us to find this number x, it's simply 2 subtract 1 1/3, which is the same as 2 over 1, 3 by 1 is 3 plus 1, 4 over 3. The LCM is 3, 1 into 3 is 3, 3 by 2 is 6, subtract 3 into 3 is 1, 1 by 4 is 4, and 4 from 6 will give us 2/3. So this value of, or this value when added to 1 1/3 gives 2 will be 2/3. Or this number when added to 1 1/3 to give 2 will be 2/3. So let's look at question 4. So question 4. So the next term in the sequence 1, 6, 13, 22, 33 is, we have 1, 6, 13, 22, 33. Let's look at the pattern. This is of course looking at a sequence of numbers and we're trying to recognize the pattern. So between 1 and 6, of course, 5 plus 1 will give 6. We know that 7 plus 6 will give 13. We know that 13 plus 9 will give us 22. We know 22 plus 11 will give us 33. We look between 5, 7, 9, 11. So we expect this to be 13. So 13 plus 33 will give us 46. So we expect the answer for question 4 to be C. So question 4C. Let's look at question 5. What is the least number of apples that can be shared equally among either 6, 10, or 15 children? So the least number of apples, anytime we talk about the least number, we know it's the LCM. So we have 6, 10, 15. So let's quickly find the LCM. So we're going to start by dividing the lowest prime number, which is 2. Because 2 can divide exactly into 6 and 10. So I start with 2. So 2 into 6 is 3. 2 into 10 is 5. 2 cannot divide exactly into 15. So we bring down our 15. So I'm going to move to my next prime number because 2 cannot divide exactly into any of those numbers, 3, 5, or 15. So I move to the next prime, which is 3. 3 can divide into itself to give 1. 3 cannot divide exactly into 5, so I bring down my 5. And 3 into 15 is 5. So I'm going to move to my next prime because 3 cannot divide exactly into 1, 5, or 5. So I'm going to move to the next prime number, which is 5, and my objective is to divide until I get 1. So 5 cannot divide into 1 exactly, so I bring down my 1. 5 into 5 is 1, 5 into 5 is 1. So the least number of apples that can be shared equally among 6, 10, or 15 children will be the LCM here, which is 2 by 3 by 5. So 2 by 3 is 6, and 6 by 5 is 30. So that answer for question 5 will be B. Let's move on to question 6. It says here, question 6, a certain amount of money is shared among J, Troy, and Jordan in the ratio 2 to 3 to 9. If Troy receives 14 more than J, then the amount of money shared is. So we have the ratio, we have 2 to 3 to 9. This is J, we have Troy, we have Jordan. So it says here, if Troy receives, so Troy receives 14 more than J, so what we're going to simply do is establish a proportional relationship. So if Troy receives 14 more than J, we can simply subtract 2 from 3 to give us 1. We subtract the proportional parts here. Troy receiving 14 more than J, so this will be 1 proportional part is equal to $40, establishing a proportional relationship. And we want the amount of money shared. What's the total amount of money shared? That will be, or that will equate to the total of your proportion. So therefore, 3 plus 9 plus 3 is 12. 12 plus 2 will give us 14. So 14 proportional parts. If we know 1 proportional part, which represents Troy receiving 14 more than J, just subtracting 2 from 3 to get 1, which is equal to 40. Then 14 proportional parts, which represents the total amount of money shared, will be to multiply $40 by 14, which will give us $560. So that is the total amount of money shared. The answer there is D. Let's move on to 7. So 7, set question. And again, a number of these questions, if we practice our past papers on a regular basis before the examination, you will see where a number of these questions were repeated questions. Yeah? So we have this set P, whose elements are 2, 3, 5, 7, Q, whose elements are 2, 3, 6, and S, whose elements are 2, 4, 5. Then what is P? So we have P union Q union S. So of course, if it's a union, simply looking at combining all those elements without repetition of any elements. So this will be simply 2 combining them, 3 without repetition, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The answer there is D. So let's move on to 8. So 8 we have, right, so the shaded region represents, so what's the shaded region? So this region here represents the intersection of P and Q. This is P intersect Q. So that region represents the intersections. We have here, we have P, we have Q, and this region here represents the intersection of P and Q. So everything outside of that region, everything that exists outside of that region, so we can have an entire region here. Everything outside of that region represents the complement of the intersection. So this here will be P intersect Q complement, or the complement of P intersect Q, whose answer there is for question 8B. So question 8, looking at B. So question 9. The elements of the set 6 is less than x, which is less than or equal to 10, where x is an integer, are, so we have here, we have our solution set. X is such that 6 is less than x, which is less than or equal to 10. So simply what this means, if we have 6 is less than x, which is less than or equal to 10, this here is a combination of our inequalities, and what we can do is simply separate them. We can write this as 6 is less than x and x is less than or equal to 10. But 6 being less than x is the same as x being greater than 6. If 6 is less than x, it means x is greater than 6, and x is less than or equal to 10. So therefore, x is greater than 6, x is greater than 6, we're looking at numbers that are greater than 6, which are 7, 8, 9, and of course x are less than or equal to 10. Of course, we're looking at numbers less than or equal to 10, and we're also including 10. So we're looking at 10, 9, 8, 7. So it lies within that range. X is greater than 6, and x is less than or equal to 10. So 7, 8, 9, 10. Whose answer there for question 9 is C. So we have our set of elements. So question 9, C. Let's look at question 10. Question 10. So item 10 refers to the following information. We have M, whose elements are P, Q, and R. We have N, whose elements are P and Q. And they want us to indicate which of the following statements about M and N is true. Now it cannot be A, because M is not a subset of N. The symbol here simply means subset. M is not a subset of N. All the elements of M are not in N, so clearly M is not a subset of N. So the union of M and N, if I combine all these elements, it will not be equal to N. And the intersection of M and N, if I look at my element, I have elements common to both, so clearly the intersection is not empty. But the union of M and N, when I combine all these elements, M union N, I'm combining my elements without repetition. It's going to be P, Q, and R, and this simply represents what? M. So M union N is equal to set M. So which of the following statements about sets M and N is true? That is B. So question 10B. So let's move on to question 11. So 11. All students in a class play Scrabble or checkers or both. If 36% of the students play Scrabble only, and keyword only, and 48% of the students play checkers only, keyword only, what percentage of students play both games? So we know when we see the word both, it simply means intersection. So to show a quick Venn diagram representing our two games, which are Scrabble and checkers, it states here if 36% of the students play Scrabble only. So in this Venn diagram, Scrabble only will be this region here. Alright? Scrabble is the entire circle, but this region here represents Scrabble only. So 36% will be placed here. And 48% of the students play checkers only. So checkers only will be this region. So 48% of the students play checkers only. What percentage of the students play both? So of course, we know if all the students in the class play Scrabble and checkers, all will represent 100%, all the students. So therefore, if we have to determine the number of students who play both games, which is this region here representing the intersection. So both games, so number of students playing both games will be equal to, is going to be 100 subtract 36 plus 48, which will give us, 36 plus 48, that will give us 84. And 84 from 100 should give us 16. So we know the answer here, what percentage of students play both games? That will be 16%. Whose answer there is B. So question 11B. So let's move on to question 12. So 12. Right, item 12 refers to the following Venn diagram, which shows the universal set U and two sets T and C that represents the students in a class who play tennis and chess. How many students play tennis but not chess? So they play tennis but not chess. That simply represents students who play tennis only. So tennis only, we're looking at, so let's quickly draw the Venn diagram. So this is chess, this is tennis. Then if we are asked how many students play tennis but not chess, that simply represents students who play tennis only, which is represented by this region here. So this represents tennis only. And students who play tennis only are, we have Alex, we have Tom, we have Kayla, and we have Ali. So, how many students play tennis but not chess? That answer will be 4 students. So, 4 students, so number of students who play tennis but not chess will be 4 students, whose answer there will be C. So question 12, C. Let's move on to question 13. So 13, a dress which costs $180 is being sold at a discount of 10%. The amount of a discount, not discounted price, but a discount. So 13 or discount will be 10% of $180. That's 10 over 100 times 180. That will be 0 cancels, 0 cancels, 0 cancels, 0 cancels, which will leave us with $18. So your discount is $18, question 13C. So let's move on to question 14. If EC $2.50 is equivalent to US $1, then EC $25 in US dollars is. So again, we deal with currency and we want to convert from one currency to the other. So we establish a relationship between the two currencies. So initially we know EC $2.50 is equivalent to US $1. So then EC $25 in US dollars is. So EC $2.50 is equal to US $1. It's important for us to find one EC dollar, what that is equal to. And that's simply equal to 1 US all over 250 and therefore 25 EC dollars will be 1 all over 250 times 25. Yeah? When we work that out, what are we going to get? Simply, we can move this. This is 25 divided by 2.5. So I can move this point 2 places to the right to become 250. And my point is understood after 5. I can also move 2 places to the right, 1, 2. What I do to my denominator, I must do to the numerator. So this becomes 2500. And when I divide 250 into 2500, I'm going to get 0 go 0 go. 25 into 250 is 10. So therefore, this will be equal to US $10. Whose answer for question 14 is B. So question 14B. Let's look at question 15. Right. For every sale amounting to $1, a salesman is paid 10 cents as commission. If his sales for a particular month was $1,020, how much commission was he paid? So for every $1, a salesman is paid 10 cents. So if his sales amounted to $1,020, then we know how many $1 that is that equivalent to. So we know that $1,020 is equal to 1,020 $1 bills, right? Okay? And if for every sale amounting to $1, we have 1,020 of them, a salesman is paid 10 cents as commission. So for every $1 he's paid 10 cents, and we have 1,020 of them. So therefore his commission will be, so therefore the salesman commission will be 1,020 times 10 cents. Or you can multiply it by 0.1. So 10 cents is the same as, you can write it as 0.1 as a decimal. So therefore, if we multiply 1 by 1,020, we're multiplying decimal numbers. In this case, 0.1 by 1,020, we multiply them as whole numbers first. So 1,020 times 1, which is 1,020. And now let's include our point by moving our decimal point, which is understood after that 0, 1 place to the left. So this becomes $102 will be the commission received by this salesman. Yeah? So the answer for question 15, it is C. Alright, let's move on to question 16. A man's basic wage for a 40-hour week is $160. He's paid overtime at a rate of 1.25 times the hourly rate. If he works 6.5 hours overtime in a certain week, his wage for that week is. So if he works 6.5 hours overtime in a certain week, what is his wage? His wage for that week. Wage meaning what is the total wage, which is a combination of his basic wage, which we know already, and of course the overtime wage. So we know what is his basic wage, which is $160, and what we want to do is to determine what is his overtime wage. And once we calculate that, then we can determine what is his total wage for the week. So his overtime wage, of course, will be his overtime rate multiplied by the number of hours worked overtime. So how do we determine the overtime rate? So to determine the overtime rate, we first need to find the basic rate. So his basic rate, the basic rate will be to divide the number of hours worked for the week, which is 40 hours, into the basic wage of 160. So 160 divided by 40 will give us a basic rate, which is the hourly rate, how much is he's paid per hour, of $4. So the basic rate is $4. Now when you work overtime, your overtime rate, which is your hourly rate for working overtime, will be much more. So you pay more per hour. So his hourly rate, it's simply he's paid a rate of 1.25 times the hourly rate, which is 1.25 or 5/4 times the basic rate of $4. So when you work overtime, he's paid now $5 an hour. So $5 an hour for working overtime times the number of hours worked overtime, which is what, 6.5 hours. This will be 5 times 6 by 2 is 12, plus 1 is 13 all over 2. 5/1 by 13 over 2 will give us 65 all over 2, which is equal to his overtime wage of 2 into 6 is 3, 2 into 5 is 2, remainder 1, which is 32.5 or $32.50 will be his overtime wage. So his overtime wage is $32.50. So therefore, the question asks is, if he works 6.5 hours overtime, his wage for the week. So what is his wage for the week? So his wage for the week will be equal to his basic wage of $160 plus his overtime wage of $32.50. And when we add those two, we should get his wage for the week as $192.50, whose answer there is D. So question 16, the answer is D. Let's move on to 17. So 17, a television set cost $350 cash. When bought on hire purchase, a deposit of $35 is required, followed by 12 monthly payments of $30 each. How much money is saved by paying cash? Right? Again, another common question. And I think I would have done this question also before the exam. Right? So we're going to quick review, and I would have covered this question in the review process. So we know for us to determine how much money was saved, paid cash. So the cash price, we know it's $350, and we know when we buy something on hire purchase, we know we often make a deposit, and the balance we make or we pay in equal monthly installments. So the hire purchase price will be your deposit of $35 plus 12 equal monthly payments of $30. So it's going to be 12 times 30. We know this is 35 plus 12 by 30 will give us 360. So we know that $35 plus $35 plus $360 will give us $395. That's the higher purchase price. So how much money is saved by paying cash? So if we decided to pay cash of $350 as opposed to higher purchase, how much would he have saved? So the amount of money saved, will be to subtract 350 from 395. So the amount of money saved buying the television cash will be $45. His answer for question 17 is D. Right, so 17D. Let's look at question 18. Right, so another question I would have done before in the review exercise before the exam. At the end of the year, a car is worth $5, 5% less than what it was worth at the beginning of the year. A car was worth $9,500 in December 2021. Then its value in January 2021 is. So in January 2021, we do not know what's the value of the car, but let's represent the initial value of the car as a percentage. Let's represent it as 100%. Now at the end of this year, a car is worth 5% less than what it was worth at the beginning of the year. So if it's 5% less, we know at the end of the year it's going to be worth 95%. Okay, and this is in December, this is the end of the year 2021. Yeah? It's worth 95%. And at the end of the year, if it's 95%, the worth is what? $9,500. Okay? So we can establish a relationship here between the percentage, 95%, and the cost it's worth at the end of the year, $9,500. And what we can do is work towards finding what will be the value for 100%. So, using our relationship here, our proportional relationship, if 95% is equal to $9,500, we can find for 1%, which is $9,500 divided by 95%, and therefore we can determine what 100% is equal to, which is 9,500 divided by 95 multiplied by 100. And we know 95 into 9,500 is 100, and 100 by 100 will give us 1 with 4 zeros, which is $10,000, whose answer there is C. So question 18, C. Let's move on to question 19. So question 19. So 19, a loan of $15,000 was repaid in 24 equal monthly installments of $750. The total interest paid as a percentage of the principal was. So the principal is how much? In this case, it's a loan you took. So the principal is the amount of money you borrowed, which is this $15,000. And it was repaid in 24 equal monthly installments. If you borrow money from a financial institution, you're not going to pay back $15,000 exact. You must pay back interest, the amount plus interest. So you paid $750 in 24 equal monthly installments. So this is your principal. This is the amount of money borrowed. Alright? And you repaid 24 times 750. And 24 by 750 will give us 24 by 750. That's $18,000. So you repaid $18,000. So you borrowed, you went to the bank, this financial institution, to borrow $15,000. You got a loan, and you have to repay $18,000. So therefore, what is the interest on this loan? Interest here will be to subtract 15,000 from 18,000, which is what? $3,000. So that's the interest on that loan. Okay? So you borrowed 15, that's the interest you're going to pay. So they ask the total interest paid as a percentage of the principal. So the interest as a percentage of the principal will be, so interest as percentage of principal will be to take this $3,000 You're going to put it all over the principal, which is 15,000 times 100%. And let's see what we're going to get. Times 100. And let's see what we're going to get. This becomes 0 goes 0 goes 0 goes 0 goes 0 goes 0 goes. 3 into 3 is 1, 3 into 15 is 5. 5 into 100 will give us 20. And that's 20%. So question 19, the answer there is D. So 19D. So let's look at question 20. Another question we did in the review, at a sale, a discount of $3 off the original price was offered for each book. So Daniel paid $46 for 2 books that had the same sale price. What was the original cost of 1 book? Right, so at a sale, a discount of $3 off the original price. And then Daniel paid $46 for 2 books. So if 2 books is equal to $46, then we know 1 book will be $46 divided by 2, which is what? $23. Yeah? And it's stated here at a sale, a discount of $3 off the original price. Good? $3 off the original price. So this here is your, so the discounted price. This is the discounted price. So therefore the original price. So if this is the discounted price and you got $3 off, yeah, the original price, then the original price will be $23 plus $3, which is $26. So the original price of 1 book will be $26, whose answer there is D. So question 20D. So let's move on to question 21. So question 21. Right, so we have here 3x squared multiplied by 2x cubed. So 3x squared by 2x cubed. This is, we can multiply the 2 coefficients, 3 by 2 to give us 6. And x squared by x cubed from our law of multiplication of indices, we are going to maintain our base of variable x, but the powers we have. So we're going to get 6x to the power 5, whose answer, that is E. So that is 6x to the power 5. Let's look at question 22. If 5 and in brackets y minus 2 is equal to 3 and in brackets y plus 4, then what is y? So we have 5 and in brackets y. We have minus 2 and we have 3 in brackets, y plus 4. What is y? Simple equation to solve, so I'm going to remove my brackets. 5 by y is 5y. 5 by negative 2 is negative 10. 3 by y will give me 3y. 3 by 4 will give me 12. I'm going to place all my unknowns with y on one side. So I'm going to subtract 3y from both sides. So this will be 5y, subtract 3y. And I'm going to add 10 to both sides, so this becomes 12 plus 10. So 5y subtract 3y will give me 2y. 12 plus 10 will give me 22. And to make y the subject, I have to remove this 2 in front of y. So this is 2 multiplied by y. And the opposite of multiplication is division. So I divide 2y by 2. I also divide 22 by 2. And y in this case will be 11. So question 22, the answer there is D. So question 22D. So let's look at question 23. Again, another question we did, and that question we did before, we also did that in the review exercise. So 23. 7 times the product of 2 numbers A and B will be written as. 7 times, of course, means to multiply. Product also means to multiply. product of A and B. So 7 times the product of A and B can be written as 7AB. Yeah? Whose answer there is B. So question 23. Let's look at question 24. Three asterisk 6 is equal to 3 and 2 asterisk 4 is equal to 0. Then A asterisk B may be defined as. So we want an expression representing A asterisk B. An expression representing that. And the trick with this, we have 4 options here. So we can take all 4 options, and I'm going to use 3 asterisk 6, 2 asterisk 4 to see which option will help me to get a result of 3 for 3 asterisk 6 and a result of 0 for 2 asterisk 4. So if I'm starting with A as A squared subtract B, so when A in this case A is equal to 3 and B is equal to 6, let me replace A with 3, subtract, let me replace B with 6. This is 9 minus 6, which gives me 3. So this so far works for 3 asterisk 6. Let's see if it also works for 2 asterisk 4. So I'm going to let A be 2 and B be 4. And I'm going to use my expression A squared minus B, and let me see if that will work for 2 asterisk 4. Let's see if I'm going to get 0. So this will be, I'm replacing A with 2 in brackets squared, subtract, I'm replacing B with 4. So 2 squared is 2 by 2, which is 4. 4 minus 4 gives 0. Yes, so A squared minus B works for both 3 asterisk 6 equal to 3 and 2 asterisk 4 equal to 0. So it means certainly that our answer will be E. 24E. So let's move on to 25. So 25, if x is equal to negative 2, but we did something very close to this, very close. If x is equal to negative 2, y is equal to 3, and t is equal to 3, then x over y all to the power of t will be equal to what? So x over y all to the power of t. So I'm replacing x with negative 2 over, I'm replacing y with 3 in brackets, raised to the power, I'm replacing t with 3. So this is negative 2 over 3, or negative 2 thirds cube, which is negative 2 thirds times negative 2 thirds times negative 2 thirds. And what will that give me? Negative 2 by negative 2 is positive 4. 4 by negative 2 gives negative 8. 3 by 3 is 9. 9 by 3 is 27. So negative 8 over 27, whose answer is B. So 25B. Let's look at 26. So 26. If 1 over 3 raised to the power of 2x is equal to 9, then the value of x is. So what we have here is an equation in index form. You have to solve for x, and x is represented as a power, so this is an equation in index form. So what I can do is remove 3 to the power of 2x from the denominator, and I can bring it to the numerator. When I do so, 3 stays as is, but the index of power to positive 2x becomes negative 2x. Yeah, so this is me moving from a positive index to a negative index, moving 3 to the power of 2x from the denominator to the numerator is equal to 9. So in solving an equation in index form, you want 1 term on the left, which you have, to a base of 3, and you also want 1 term on the right, to a base of 3. And you can convert 9 into a base of 3. 9 is the same as 3 squared. And once you have done so, one term on the left a base of 3, one term on the right a base of 3, you can now equate the powers. You can place the powers equal to each other. So therefore, negative 2x is equal to 2, and you can solve for x by dividing what is on the left by negative 2, and what you do to one side, you do to the other. You divide 2 by negative 2. What is on the right by negative 2. So what's going to happen? My two negative 2's divide into each other. X is equal to a plus divided by a minus is a minus. So I'm going to get x as negative 1. So question 26, that answer there is E. So let's look at 27. Given the matrix A, we have the elements shown 1, 3, negative 3, 3, 0, 5. Then 3A, what is that equal to? So we have the matrix A, 1, 3, negative 3, 3, 0, 5. We want to find 3A. So that's 3 times the matrix A, 1, 3, negative 3, 3, 0, 5. So you're going to simply multiply 3 by each of the elements within. So 3 by 1 is 3, 3 by 3 is 9, 3 by negative 3 is negative 9, 3 by 3 is 9, 3 by 0 is 0, 3 by 5 is 15. So the answer for 3A, 3, 9, 9, 0, negative 9, 15, 27 will be E. Let's look at question 28. So we have the determinant of the 2 by 2 identity matrix is. So first we need to recognize what's the identity matrix. So the identity matrix, which is the identity matrix is denoted by I, and the standard matrix is 1, 0, 0, 1. That's the identity matrix. And if we have to find the determinant of that identity matrix, the determinant of that identity matrix, two parallel lines will indicate the determinant. And your formula is AD minus BC. That's the formula we use to find the determinant of a matrix, of a 2 by 2 matrix. So this is A, this is B, this is C, and that's D. So I'm going to replace A with 1 in brackets, D with 1 in brackets, subtract B with 0 in brackets, C with 0 in brackets. So 1 by 1 will give me 1. Subtract 0 by 0 will give me 0, and 1 minus 0 is 1. So the determinant of that 2 by 2 identity matrix will be 1, whose answer is B. So 28, we're looking at B. So let's look at 29. And again, we did something like this in the review exercise, where we had to treat with vector addition or subtraction, in this case vector subtraction. So we have vector P, it's a column vector 3, 7, Q, column vector negative 2, 5. They wanted to find P, subtract Q. So this is P subtract Q. So we set it up in the order. P is 3, 7, subtract vector Q, which is negative 2, 5. So this is simply 3 subtract negative 2, and this is 7 subtract 5. So we know a minus by a minus is a plus. That's 3 plus 2 is 5, and 7 minus 5 will give us 2. So the answer there is 5 to 29 C. Let's look at 30. So 30, so we have a vector question. We looked at something similar to this as well in our review exercise. So you see a number of questions that repeated it. Well, didn't repeat itself exactly, but you know we had similarities, yeah? So we have here this parallelogram. This is W, this is X, this is Y, this is Z. R here, it says R is a midpoint of YZ. And we know when we talk about midpoint, it's going to divide vector YZ in half. We're going to cut it in half into two equal vectors. So it states here that XW, this is the direction of your vector from X to W. The magnitude is V. And we have vector XY moving from X to Y. The arrow will indicate that the magnitude is U. So for a parallelogram, we need to know that the two opposite vectors are equal and parallel. So it means we are also moving for this vector here, which is opposite and parallel to XY. The direction will be the same and the magnitude will also be the same. Similarly, for vector XW, of course, YZ, we're moving in the same direction from Y to Z, but remember R will divide it into two equal vectors. So I'll put it as YR and RZ, so moving in the same direction. The magnitude of this vector YZ will also be V, but because R is the midpoint, it means that this vector V will also be divided in half. So it means that vector YR will be a half V and vector RZ is also a half V. R being the midpoint will allow that to happen. And it will divide this vector, the magnitude of the vector YZ in half. So with that, with all the information placed on the diagram, they want us to now find vector RW. So vector RW will be found by connecting R to W. So that's a vector you want to find. Of course, for it to become a vector, you must place the direction, which is from R to W, and of course you want to determine what's the magnitude, which is one of these options here. So to find RW, vector RW, we can use our formula developed from the triangle law. It's going to be RZ, vector RZ, plus vector ZW. Once the two inner letters are the same, we connect the outer to give us our RW, which is what we want to find. Now, vector RZ, the magnitude is a half V plus ZW. Now, we have WZ, which is in that direction. So with vectors, when you're moving in the opposite direction, ZW, the magnitude will change. The sign of the magnitude and direction will also change, right? So this is WZ, but you want what? ZW. So the direction changes and the magnitude will change from positive U to negative U. So this becomes a half V subtract U. Will be the magnitude of RW, whose answer there is E. So question 30E. So let's look at question 31. Right, and again we would have done the same question. Given that 1 millimeter is equal to 1,000 meters, then 2,500 millimeters in meters will be. So again, you have that relationship. 1 millimeter is equal to 1 over 1,000 meters. Then 2,500 millimeters will be equal to what? So much in all 1 is equal to, you can find 2,500, which is 1 all over 100 times 2,500. 1 over 1,000, sorry. Yeah? Times 2,500. So 1 over 1,000 times 2,500, this will give us what? 2,500 all over 1,000. 0 goes 0 goes 0 goes 0 goes. 25 divided by 10 will give me 2.5 meters. Whose answer there is B? So question 31, the answer is B. Let's look at 32. The length of the edge of a cube that has a volume of 27 cm cube is. So we have a cube So that's a cube, and the length of the edge of a cube that has a volume. So the volume of this cube is, and the volume of a cube is side by side by side, right? Yeah? So we know if this is side, that is side, and this is side, we want to determine what is the length of the edge of a cube. What is the length of one of those edges, yeah? So this would be, if the volume is 27, we know the volume of a cube is side by side by side, which is side cube. Then to get side by itself, it means you have to remove that power of 3. So to remove a power of 3, what you're going to do is to find the cube root of S cube. Once I put that cube root symbol above S cube, this power of 3 by S is automatically removed. So this becomes S automatically. But remember, when you find the cube root of S cube, what you do to one side, you must do to the other. So you must find the cube root of 27. And the cube root of 27 will be 3. So the length of an edge will be 3 centimeters. 32, the answer here is E. Let's move on to 33. So 33. The perimeter of a square is 48 centimeters. What is the area in cm square? So, you know you have a square. All 4 sides are of the same length. So the perimeter of that square is 48. Then we can determine what's the length of a side. So we know that, let's call the length of a side x. So we have all 4 sides are of the same length. So the perimeter in terms of x will be 4x. And the perimeter is equal to what? 48 centimeters. So we can determine x by simply dividing both sides by 4. So the length of a side will be 12 centimeters. This is also 12. This is also 12. And that is also 12. So when they ask what is the area of the square now, the area of the square is side by side 12 by 12, which is 144 cm squared, whose answer is D. So 33D. Let's look at 34. Items 34 refer to the following diagram of a trapezium. A trapezium comprises of 2 parallel sides and a perpendicular height, right? PQRS, which has an area of 65 cm squared. The height of trapezium PQRS is, we want to determine what's the perpendicular height. So it requires you to know what's the area of a trapezium. So the area of a trapezium is a half times the sum of my 2 parallel sides. Call one side A, this is A, call the other side B. Multiplied by the perpendicular height H. So they want us to find H. So we know that the area of this trapezium is 65 cm squared. This is a half times the sum of the 2 parallel sides. This is 8 plus 18 times H. This is 65. It's a half times 8 plus 18 will give me 26 times H. 65 is equal to 2 into 2 is 1. 2 into 26 is 13. So I'm going to get 13H. And therefore to get the perpendicular height as a subject, I'm going to divide both sides by 13. And therefore H is equal to 5. So the height, perpendicular height of that trapezium will be 5 centimeters. So 34C. Yeah, let's look at 35. So 35. So we have the length of arc AB of the circle is, what's the length of arc? So we have a sector here. That's a sector, which is a fraction or a part of the circle, and we want to determine what is this length of arc from A to B. Good? So this is your length of arc. So we want to determine what's that length of arc. This is 60 degrees, this is your radius r. So we're going to get the length of arc. So the length of arc, let's call it L, well AB. The length of arc AB, it's a fraction. This length of arc is a fraction of the entire circumference. The circumference of a circle is 2 pi r, and that length of arc is a fraction of the circumference, which we write as the sector angle, which is the 60 degrees. We denoted by this symbol here, theta, all over 360 degrees. So this will be 2 pi r times theta, which is 60 degrees, all over 360 degrees. So when we simplify this, let's see what we want to get the length of the arc to be equal to in terms of r and pi. Because you see, look at the options, it's in terms of r and pi. So we're going to get what? 0 go, 0 go. 6 into 6 is 1, 6 into 36 is 6. You have 2 pi r times 1/6. And look at what can happen here now. I can say 2 into 2 is 1, 2 into 6 is 3, which will leave me with a third pi r. So the length of arc AB is a third pi r. So question 35 is E. So 35E. Let's look at 36. So 36. So items 36 refer to the following diagram, which shows a compound shape. You know, compound shape, you know, it's a combination of different figures. It's made up of a rectangle and two identical semicircles, one on either side of the short sides. So the area of the compound shape above is in terms of pi. So we want the area in terms of pi. So this compound shape here comprises of this rectangle. So we have this rectangle, and we have our two semicircles. Right? So we need to find the area in terms of pi. The two semicircles, when combined, form a circle. So those two semicircles will form a circle. So what we need to do is find the area of a circle. And this here is a what? Rectangle. So we just need to find the area of the rectangle. So we know that this length from here to here, it's 15 centimeters. This length from here to here, it's 27 centimeters. Now, if I subtract 15 from 27, so 27 subtract 15, that gives me 12 centimeters. And when I divide 12 centimeters by 2, it means that this length from here to here, so this is my 27 here, this length from here to here will be 6 centimeters. This length from here to here is also 6 centimeters. So 15 plus 6 makes up that 27. But this length from here to here represents the radius of my semicircle. This here also represents the radius. Remember, radius is a line drawn from the center to the circumference. So this is the radius. This is also 6. This is also the radius. This is also the radius. Similarly, this is the radius. This is also radius. This is also a radius. Good? So we know if this is 6, this is also 6 centimeters. This is also 6 centimeters. So the diameter of that semicircle will be 12 centimeters. So diameter is this line drawn from here to here. That's 12 centimeters. So what we can do is automatically find the area of the rectangle. So let's get the area of the rectangle, because we know the length is 15. We know the width will be 12. So the area of rectangle will be length by width. The length is 15. The width is what? 12. So we know 15 by 12, that will give us 180. So that's 180 cm squared. That represents the area of the rectangle. But let us also find the area of the what? Of the circle. Yeah? So to get the area of the circle, remember these are two semicircles. This is the center. My two semicircles combined will give me a full circle. If this is 6 centimeters, this is also 6 centimeters, right? Of course, I have my diameter, which is 12, but the radius of my circle will be 6. And we know to find the area of a circle, the formula is pi by radius squared. We know the radius, it is 6 centimeters, so it's going to be pi, and we leave it in terms of pi because the answer is in terms of pi, times 6 squared. 6 squared is 36, so it's 36 pi. So 36 pi will be the area of my circle. 36 pi centimeters squared. So what then will be the area of this compound shape? The total area, so area of compound shape, will be to find the sum of my two areas, area of the rectangle and area of the one circle, which is the combination of my two semicircles. So it's going to be 36 pi plus 180. Clearly that is not in the option, any of the options there. But what we can do is we can factorize this to get one of the options we have there. If we look, 36 is common to itself and 180, so I can take out 36 as my highest common factor, and let me divide 36 into 36 pi will give me pi, and let me divide 36 into plus 180 will give me plus 5. So the answer for question 36 will be B. 36 pi plus 5 and 5 plus pi are the same. So this is B. So 36B. Alright, let's look at 37. So this here is this comes almost every year, right? This question. So we have here so 37. We have here the area of a rectangle is 40 centimeters squared. If the length is multiplied by 4 and the width is half, then the area will be. So we have a rectangle. It says the area of that rectangle is 40 centimeters squared, right? So we know to find the area of a rectangle is the length by width. So the length by the width, which represents the area of the rectangle, is 40 centimeters squared. Now it's saying here, if the length is multiplied by 4 and the width is half. So if the length now is multiplied by 4, so it becomes 4L, and times the width is what? Half. So that's a half W. Then this will be, what's the area then of the rectangle? So this here can be simplified to 4 by a half is 2. L by W is LW. Now we know length by width is equal to 40. So all I'm going to do is to replace this L by W with 40 centimeters squared. So this will be 2 times 40, and 2 times 40 will give me 80 centimeters squared. So the area of this rectangle when the length is multiplied by 4 and the width is half will be 80 cm squared. Right, let's look at 38. So 37, C, 38. Item 38 refers to the following diagram, which shows a compound shape that comprises a triangle resting on a square of side 5 centimeters. So you have a triangle resting on a square of side 5 centimeters. If the total area of the compound shape is 35 cm squared, then the height of the triangle is, so we want to determine what is the height of that triangle. So we have a compound shape here, a triangle. This is the height h, and we have a square. So they give us the length of a square. And you know if it's a square, all four sides will be of the same length. So it means that the base of that triangle is also 5 centimeters. Good? Now it says here, if the total area of the compound shape is 35 cm squared, total area. So the total area of this compound shape will be the area of the triangle, which is base by height all over 2 times the area of the square, which is side by side. The total area is 35 centimeters squared. The area of the rectangle, we know the base will be 5 centimeters. The height is what we want to find all over 2. Let me put a plus sign, sorry, because we say area of the triangle plus area of the square. All over 2. Plus the area of the square, we know is going to be side by side, which is 5 by 5. 5 by 5 will give 25. So we're going to get 35 is equal to 5 times the height all over 2 plus 25. So what we want to do is to find the height. So I am going to remove my 25 by subtracting 25 from both sides. So this will be 35 subtract 25 is equal to 5 times the height all over 2. So we will get towards finding the height of the triangle. 25 from 35 will give me 10 is equal to 5 times the height all over 2. And what I can do is to remove that 2 from the denominator by multiplying both sides by 2, or I can simply carry over like to a cross multiplication. I have one fraction on the left, one fraction on the right of the equal sign, and once that occurs, you can implement cross multiplication to help you to remove the equation from its fraction form. So this will be 1 by 5h is 5 times h. And 10 by 2 will give me 20. So therefore, to get the height, perpendicular height of that triangle, I'm going to now divide both sides by 5. So h is equal to 4. So the height is equal to 4 centimeters. Whose answer there for 38 is B. So question 38B. Alright, let's move on to 39. So we have a statistics question here. So the number of children who have a mass of at least 41 kilograms. So this here refers to the following 30 and 39 and 40. Sorry, refers to the following frequency distribution, which shows the average mass in kilograms of a group of children in a school. So we say that 28 students have a mass between 21 and 30, 34 students, 31, 40, 12, and so on and so forth, right? So the number of children who have a mass of at least 41 kilograms. So that is what? So number of children with mass of at least 41 kilograms is, so at least 41 means 41 and more. So we can add 41 and more, 41 and more. Good? At least 41 kilograms. So how many students will have a mass of at least 41 kilograms? That will be equal to 12 plus 38 plus 20. And that will give us what? 38 plus 20 will be 58, and and 58 plus 12 will give us 70. Whose answer there is C. So 39 is C. Let's look at 40. So 40 also applies to this frequency distribution. 40, the lower limit of the modal class is, so when we talk about mode, we know mode is the observation which occurs most often. And when data is on a table, the mode or the modal class in this case corresponds to the highest frequency. So the highest frequency in our frequency table is 38. So the modal class will be that class that corresponds to 38, which is 51 to 60. This is our modal class. Our modal class is 51 to 60. But we want the lower limit. The lower limit of your modal class will be 51. So when they ask for the lower limit is 51. Whose answer there is D. So 40 is D. Let's look at 41. So this is another question you would have done when you were looking at our review exercise. Mrs. Clark arranged the 15 test scores of her students in order of size and selected the 8 score for reporting purposes. Which of the following statistical measures did Mrs. Clark obtain? So if you have 15 test scores and she selected the 8 score, then what will that equal to? That will be equal to the median, because to find the position of the median, we're using this formula, a half times n plus 1. And of course we have 15 test scores, the number of test scores, which is 15. A half times 15 plus 1 will give us a half times 16, and a half times 16 will give us 8, which represents the 8 score, 8 position. Yeah? And the 8 position, see that this formula represents the position of the median. What we're doing here, the 8 score represents the median. So the 8 score represents the median. Right? The answer there is D. So let's look at 42. So 42, right, so we have 42. The pie chart below shows a scale, the pie chart below drawn to scale, shows how a student used 12 hours in studying English, Math, French, and Geography. The amount of time spent studying mathematics is approximately. So you want to determine the amount of time spent studying mathematics. So mathematics will be this sector, and this angle here, it is 90 degrees. Good? So what we can do is establish a relationship between the angle and the number of hours studied by students. So students use 12 hours in studying all of those subjects. So the total amount of hours or total number of hours will be 12 hours. And that will correspond to 360 degrees, which represents the angle for a circle. So we can establish a relationship of 360 degrees will be 12 hours. Yeah, so we establish that relation. Total number of hours to study all 4 subjects, 12 hours, which will be equal to 360 degrees, total number of degrees of the circle. So we can find 1 degree, which is 12 all over 360, and therefore 90 degrees will be equal to how many hours? So that will be 12 all over 360 times 90. And what we're going to get here? Zeros go, 0 go. 12 into 12 is 1, 12 into 36 is 3. 3 3 into 3 is 1, 3 into 9 is 3, which will give us 3 hours. So 90 degrees will be equal to 3 hours. Whose answer there is C. So 42 is C. Let's look at 43. So another question we would have done in our review exercise before the exam. If the mean of 4 numbers, 4, 8, x, and 12 is 10, then what is it? So the mean of 4 numbers. So we know how to find mean or average. The mean is what? So you're going to take all the observations, and which is the sum of all observations. You have the observations there, which are what? 4 plus 8 plus x plus 12. Now how you find the mean, the sum of all observations, divided by the total number of observations, which will be what? 4. And of course, we found our mean, which is what? 10. So the mean is 10. So 10 will be equal to 4 plus 8, which is 12. 12 plus 12 is 24 plus x over 4. And we can establish a nice simple equation which can help us to find the value of x. So what are we going to do here? I am going to put 10 over 1. I can either multiply both sides by 4, or I can cross multiply because I have single fractions on either side of the equal sign. So 1 by 24 plus x is 24 plus x. 10 by 4 will give me 14. No more fractions. And I can now solve for x by subtracting 24 from both sides. This is 40, subtract 24. 24 from 40 will give me 16. So the value of x is 16, which is D. Let's look at 44. 44, it states here, items 44 refer to the following table, which shows the responses of 100 persons from 2 ethnic groups, P and R. So to survey, let me read over that. Item 44 refers to the following table, which shows the responses of 100 persons from 2 ethnic groups, P and R, to a survey about their attitude towards mathematics. So a survey, which of course it's highlighting the attitude towards mathematics. So it says here a respondent is selected at random. What is the probability that the selected respondent is of ethnicity P and has a positive attitude towards mathematics? So, key question, what is the probability? So how do we find probability? Probability is equal to the number of ways an event can occur, the number of ways an event can occur all over the total number of possible ways. Total number of possible ways. Good? So that's how we find probability, using that very important formula. So, we want to determine what is the probability that the selected respondent is of ethnicity P and has a positive attitude. So, how many respondents are of ethnicity P, good, and have a positive attitude? So, ethnicity P is here, and they have a positive attitude. That will be 25 of them. Yeah? So that's a number of ways in which we can have respondents of ethnicity P, and with a positive attitude, we have 25 of them. All over the total number of possible ways, the total number of respondents will be 100, will be the total number of respondents, yeah? From both groups. So the probability here will be 25 over 100, which is a quarter, and that is 0.25, whose answer is E. So 44A. But let's look at 45. 45. Which of the following diagrams best illustrates a function? Alright? So a function, if we look, this first here cannot be a function because this here is a one-to-many mapping. One element of the domain is mapped onto many elements of the codomain or range. So therefore, this clearly is not a function. One-to-many is not a function. C is also not a function because this is one-to-many. One element of the domain is being mapped onto many of the range. This is also not a function because our one element of the domain is being mapped onto many of the range. B is a function because this is a one-to-one mapping. Our one element of the domain is being mapped onto one element of the range. One element of the domain is being mapped onto one element of the range. One element of the domain is being mapped onto one element of the range. So, which of the following best describes a function? That will be B, because it is a one-to-one mapping. One-to-one mapping is a function. So that's B. So let's look at 46. Right, so items 46 and 47 refer to the following graph of a straight line AB. So the point where the straight line AB crosses the horizontal axis is, so where does it cross the horizontal axis? Here. So they want, what are the coordinates of that point? So the coordinates of that point will be obviously 3, 0. Yeah? So when a line cuts or meets the x-axis or the horizontal axis, the y coordinate is automatically 0 and meets the x-axis at 3. So that answer for 46 will be A. Right, let's look at 47. So 47, still using the same diagram. The equation of the straight line AB is, we want to find the equation of that straight line. How do we find the equation of a line? We use the formula y is equal to mx plus c. That's the formula for the equation of a line. But we need to find the gradient of the line. And we already know where the line meets the y-axis. Y-intercept c. We know c automatically is negative 2. So we know we're going to replace c with negative 2. But we need to find the gradient. So to find m, we're going to use the formula. We have 2 points on the line that we can comfortably use. We have the coordinates of those 2 points. So we can use y subscript 2 minus y subscript 1 over x subscript 2 minus x subscript 1. We have A, whose coordinates, now this meets the vertical or the y-axis. And once a line meets the y-axis, we know the x coordinate is automatically 0 and y in this case is negative 2. B, we know that line meets the horizontal axis or the x-axis, so we know y is automatically 0 and x in this case will be 3. So with 2 points, we can use this formula to find the gradient. So I label x1, y1, x2, y2. I'm going to replace y2 with 0. Subtract, I'm going to replace y1 with negative 2. So I put negative 2 in brackets to separate my signs. Over, I'm going to replace x2 with 3. Subtract, I replace x1 with 0. So I'm going to get a minus by a minus is a plus. 0 plus 2 is 2. 3 subtract 0 is 3. So my gradient is 2/3, positive 2/3, hence the reason why my line slopes that way, right? Once it's a positive gradient, the line slopes that way. So therefore, with my gradient and knowing my y-intercept c is, we look clearly, we see where the line meets the y-axis at negative 2. The equation of my line then will be, I'm going to write it back in this form, y is equal to 2/3 x, and I'm replacing c with negative 2. And that there is the equation of my line. 47 is C. Yeah? Let's move on to 48. Another question you would have looked at before the examination? So another question, number of them were repeated, yeah? The coordinates of the maximum point of the function y equal to 4x minus x, well this is a quadratic function, so therefore the maximum point will obviously be this point here. That's the maximum point. Yeah? So the coordinates of that maximum point will be x, which is 2, and y, which is 4. So the coordinates of that maximum point, so the maximum point will be 2, 4. Whose answer there is E. Let's look at 49. Also in relation to that parabola, that quadratic function, it says here the equation of axis of symmetry of the quadratic function is. What is the equation of axis of symmetry? When we talk about axis of symmetry, we are talking about a line that will cut that quadratic curve in half. So this is a line that cuts this quadratic curve in half, or function in half. This is our line here, which is known as the equation of axis of symmetry. And this line here, equation, can be represented as an equation. The equation of this line is x equal to 2. It is a vertical line passing through 2 on the x-axis. So the equation of that line is denoted by x equal to 2. And hence the equation of axis of symmetry will be A. X equal to 2. So 49A. Alright, let's look at 50. If g of x is equal to 7x minus 3 over 5, then what is g inverse? G inverse of negative 2, right? So you have g of x is equal to 7x minus 3 over 5. We want g inverse of negative 2. In order for us to find g inverse of negative 2, we need to find first g inverse of x. So you need to find that first. You need to find this, right? So to find g inverse of x, there are some steps we have to implement. 3 steps. The first step is we're going to replace this g of x with y. So instead of writing g of x, we're going to state let y be equal to 7x minus 3 over 5. That's step 1. Easy step. Step 2, you're going to interchange x and y. Interchange x and y. So where I see my y, I'm going to replace it with x. And where I see x, I'm going to replace it with y. And the final step will be to make y the subject of the formula. And this is where your knowledge of transposition will come into play. So I need to make y the subject of the formula. So how am I going to get y by itself? The first thing I need to do is to remove this equation from its fraction form. So 7y minus 3 over 5 is a fraction on the right, one fraction on the right. X over 1 is one fraction on the left. Once I have single fractions on either side of the equal sign, I can cross multiply. So 1 by 7y minus 3 is 7y minus 3, and x by 5 will give me 5x. No more fractions. So let me proceed now to make y the subject. So this negative 3 I need to remove first by adding 3 to both sides. So this will be 7y is equal to 5x plus 3. And then to make y the subject, I need to remove that 7 in front of y. So because it's 7 times y, the opposite of multiplication is division. So I divide 7y by 7, and I divide 5x plus 3 by 7. 7y divided by 7, my two 7's divide into each other. Y is now the subject, which is equal to 5x plus 3 over 7. And this here represents g inverse of x. So that is G inverse of x. So having found G inverse of x, I can now find G inverse of negative 2. So G inverse of negative 2 simply means I'm going to replace x in my expression for G inverse of x with negative 2. So this is 5, negative 2 in brackets plus 3 over 7. 5 by negative 2 is negative 10 plus 3 over 7. Negative 10 plus 3 is negative 7 over 7. And therefore, I'm going to get G inverse of negative 2 as negative 1. Whose answer for question 50 is B. So let's look at question 51. So question 51. It states here, a parking lot charges $1 plus 25 cents for every hour or part thereof in which a vehicle is parked. So what is the function C of H that represents the parking cost? So your parking cost, so the function C of H which represents your parking cost will be, so when you, of course you have that base fee of $1 plus 25 cents for every hour or part thereof. 25 cents for every hour. So this is 0.25 each for every hour or part thereof. So if it's 1 hour, then you know it's 1 times 25 cents plus your base fee of $1. If it's 2 hours, you replace it each with 2 times 25 cents plus your base of $1. If it's 3 hours, you replace each with 3 and so on. So this here is your function that represents the parking cost, yeah, on this lot. Alright? Whose answer there is, it's the same as 0.25 each plus $1. So this is the same as this. So that answer 51 is C. And let's look at 52. Again, this is another question we reviewed when we were looking at our review exercise in preparation for the examination. So the range of function of the function f is such that x is mapped onto x cubed for that domain. What is the corresponding, or what is the range, right? We want to determine what's the range. So for 52, I'm going to take my domain which represents my x coordinates, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2. I want to determine what's my range, which is the y coordinate for this given relation f is such that x is mapped onto x cubed. That f is such that x is the same as f of x. We can replace it with y. They are all the same. So when x is negative 2, f of negative 2 will be negative 2 cubed, which is equal to negative 8. When x is negative 1, this will be negative 1 cubed, which is negative 1. When it's 0, I'm going to get 0 cubed, which is 0. When it's 1, f of 1 will be 1 cubed, which will give me 1. And when it's 2, I'm going to get 2 cubed, which is 8. So the range for that domain, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, will be negative 8, negative 1, 0, 1, 8. Whose answer there is D. So 52D. Let's look at 53, another question we would have reviewed when we were looking at our exercise review exercise before the exam. So a number of questions repeated themselves. So many students should be in a good position, right? If the sum of interior angles of a polygon is 4 right angles then the polygon is what? That's simply a quadrilateral. Right? The sum of interior angles of a polygon is 4 right angles. So the sum is 4 right angles. It will 4 right angles. So 4 right angles. The sum is equal to 4 right angles. You got 4 times 90 degrees, which is 360 degrees. So we know a quadrilateral will have a polygon whose sum of interior angles will be equal to 360 degrees. So question 53, that is D. Alright, let's look at 54. Again, another review question. Another question we looked at before the exam, right? So item 54, refer to the following diagram of a right angle triangle. In the right angle triangle above, which trigonometric ratio is equal to 4 over 8? So when we did this question in our review exercise, we know that if this is x, this is 4, this is 8, this is y here, this is a right angle triangle. If we have to determine the ratio 4 over 8, what will allow that to happen? So we are creating we are using our trigonometric function in relation to this angle x. So in relation to this angle x, help us to get 4 over 8. We're going to place here opposite to my angle x. This is 90, so this is my hypotenuse. Always opposite to the right angle, that's the hypotenuse. And the remaining side is the adjacent side. So in order for me to get 4 over 8, it is going to be, let me circle the two sides I have information for, which is opposite and hypotenuse. And what links opposite and hypotenuse? What trig function? That is sine the angle x. This is the angle I'm using, my acute angle I'm using. I'm labeled based on this angle. So sine x is equal to sine opposite all over the hypotenuse. Sine x will be equal to my opposite, which is 4, over the hypotenuse, which is 8. So when they ask in the right angle triangle above, which trigonometric ratio is equal to 4 over 8, that clearly will be sine x, whose answer is E, 54E. Alright, let's look at 55. So 55 refers to the following diagram of an isosceles triangle. In the triangle, the value of x is, you know, for an isosceles triangle, two sides are equal and two base angles are equal. So it's easy to find x. So x will be equal to 180 degrees, and the sum of three interior angles of a triangle is 180 degrees. So it's simply 180 subtract 60, which is 120 degrees, whose answer for 55 is C. Alright, let's look at 56. Right, this is another common question you do in your past papers. You will see where this here is a regular question. It says here, what's the length of MO? So we have two similar triangles here. So item 56 refer to the following pair of similar triangles, and they are similar because 3 angles of one is equal to 3 angles of the other. You see those two triangles have the same angle, same position. 3 angles of one equals 3 angles of the other. And for similar triangles, we have an important formula. The ratio of the corresponding sides are proportional. Ratios are fraction, right? And the corresponding sides. This side AB corresponds to this angle 59 degrees. This side MM corresponds to that angle 59 degrees. So we can create a ratio AB over MN. So that's my ratio, which is 6 all over 3 to give me 2. And that value 2, we call it your scale factor. So you call that your scale factor. And once I know my scale factor is 2, it means that if this side is 3, then obviously this side when double becomes 6. If this side is whatever when double becomes 7, when this side is whatever when double becomes this side. So if 2 is my scale factor and this is 7, then I expect MO to be a half of 7, which is 3.5. 3.5 when double will give me 7. So I know that the length of MO will be 7 centimeters divided by 2, which is 3.5 centimeters. Whose answer there is C. Alright, let's look at 57. Again, another question we would have done in our review exercise before the exam. In the diagram, the translation by which AB is mapped onto A prime, B prime is represented by. So translation, so simple transformations we're looking at here, we're looking at the translation, which is a form of transformation, right? So what we're going to do, let's take object A and image A prime. We could have gone with B and B prime, we get the same result. So object A plus the translation equals the image. So that will be equal to the image. Our object A, so I'm going to write it in terms of a column vector 2, 5 plus the translation will give me my image A prime, and I'm going to write it also as a column vector 4, 6. So to get my translation T, it means I have to subtract 2 over 5 from both sides. Yeah? So this becomes A prime subtract A. If I subtract A from both sides, so this becomes T as the subject. A prime subtract A prime, which is 4, 6, subtract A, which is 2, 5, and I'm going to get 4 subtract 2, 6 subtract 5, which gives me 2, 1. Whose answer there for 57 is E. Alright, let's look at 58. Right, so we also did a question very similar to this one in our review exercise before the exam. And item 58 refer to the following diagram which shows a transformation. This is an enlargement here, right? OAA prime, OBB prime, so OAA prime, OBB prime, OCC prime are straight lines. Triangle ABC is mapped onto triangle A prime, B prime, C prime by an enlargement with center O. What is the scale factor? So in order for an enlargement to occur, you need a scale factor, right? And the scale factor K is always denoted by image length over the object length. And the image length we can take, if you want to go with, you can go with B prime, C prime, all over the object BC. You can even go with A prime, C prime, all over AC. Doesn't matter, you get the same result. So B prime, C prime, this here will be from B prime to C prime, we can have 2 units there. 2 over from B to C, that's 1 unit. 2 over 1 gives me 2. So my scale factor is 258D. Let's look at 59. Right, and this question, we also did a question Isn't the exact question a question very similar to this, right? And if we have here item 59, refer to the following diagram which shows that the angle of depression of a point G from E is 30 degrees. Good? If F is 25 meters from E, then the distance FG in meters is, what's the distance FG in meters? So we have here so this is our angle of depression, 30 degrees. This is E, F, G. This is 90 degrees, 25 meters. Good? So we want to determine the distance FG. So to determine FG, what we can do, we can use the fact that this here is your Z-shape, alternate angles. These two lines are parallel lines. Those are two horizontal lines of sight. Yeah? So therefore you're going to have two parallel lines, and therefore when lines are parallel and you have a transversal, then you have some important angles coming into play. Alternate angles in this case. So this angle here will be 30 degrees. So you have that Z-shape coming into play. This angle is equal to that angle. Alternate angles. And now that you have an acute angle in a right angle triangle, let us use our knowledge of trigonometry to help us to determine the length of FG. So I'm going to label my sides when I'm using my trig functions and ratios. This is my acute angle, so I'm labeling based on this acute angle. This side will be the side opposite. The side opposite my right angle is the hypotenuse. And the remaining side, FG, is the adjacent side. Okay? So I always advise students, you circle, when you have to find a side and you're using trigonometry, circle the side you have to find and circle the side you have information for, so you can identify what trig function you're going to use. So what trig function links the two sides of circle opposite and adjacent? That's tan theta. So tan theta is equal to side opposite over side adjacent. So let me replace theta with 30 degrees. Tan 30 degrees is equal to my side opposite, which is 25 meters, over the adjacent, which is FG, and that's what you have to find, right? So to get FG as a subject, again, I have fractions. I have single fractions. One fraction on the right, tan 30 over 1 fraction on the left. So when I have single fractions on either side of the equal sign, to remove the fraction, I have to introduce or implement what we call cross multiplication. So I'm going to multiply FG by tan 30 degrees, and I'm going to multiply 1 by 25, which is 25. So no more fractions. And therefore, to get FG as a subject, I need to remove tan 30. So how do I remove tan 30? I am multiplying. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide this side by tan 30. And what I do to one side, I must do to the other. I divide 25 by tan 30. So my two tan 30s will divide into each other to give me 1, and I'm going to be left with FG, which is 25 all over tan 30. And when I look at my options there, my option for 59 will be A. So let's look at the last one. And this is, if you have been doing your past papers, X number of years, you're going to see this question on a regular basis. Yeah? So, let's look at 60. So we have here, right, Item 60 refers to the following diagram of a building. A surveyor sets up his instrument 12 meters from the foot of the building and records the angle of elevation of the top of the building. Angle of elevation of the top of the building. An estimate of the height of the building can be obtained by calculating. So, we want the height of the building. So, I'll have here my horizontal line. I have my building. I have my surveyor. Right, I have the height of the surveyor. 1.6 meters. This is also 1.6 meters. Yeah? The angle of elevation to the top of the building is 40 degrees. This distance from the surveyor to the foot of the building is 12 meters. So this is 12 meters. I expect this horizontal line of sight, this is from the surveyor's eye, horizontal line of sight, to also be 12 meters. And what I can do now, of course, this is a vertical, horizontal line of sight. This angle here is 90 degrees. And what I can do is implement trigonometry to determine this height here of the building, from here to here. Alright? So to determine that, let me use strings. So this will be side opposite. This will be the hypotenuse. This is my adjacent side. I want to find the opposite, so I circle the side I have to find, and I circle the side I have information for, so I can identify what trig function I'm going to use. And the two of circle are opposite and adjacent, so I know I'm going to use tan theta is equal to side opposite all over my side adjacent. I'm going to say here now that tan 40 degrees will be my side opposite, which is this distance from here to here, we call it x, over my side adjacent, which is 12 meters. And therefore, to get x by itself, I'm going to put tan 40 over one single fractions on either side. I'm going to cross multiply. 1 by x is x. 12 by tan 40 is 12 tan 40. So I know that this height from here to here, it is 12 tan 40 degrees. So therefore, what is the total height of the building? So the height of the building will be my 1.6 meters, representing the height of the surveyor, and this distance from here to here, that is that part of the building, and that height from the surveyor's line of sight to the top of the building, which is 12 tan 40. So we're going to get a total height as 1.6 plus 12 tan 40 degrees. Whose answer there is 68. Yeah? Alright, so this brings us to the end of this paper. I hope that many students would have done an excellent job in this paper. A lot of questions repeated itself, and once you did X number of past papers, you should certainly do exceptional in that 2024 paper, right? So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Moyo Man. Alright, so have a good night and see you again. Take care, everyone.